AOC accused of stealing, actually. This is kind of a biggie. There is a group coming forward, Americans for Public Trust, that's accusing her of some pretty serious stuff. Taking a look at this, being first reported in the New York Post, this is an ethics group, and they're basically filing this ethics complaint against squad member Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, accusing her of misusing taxpayer funds on dance training. Americans for Public Trust, a private watchdog group that targets corruption, alleged the AOC tapped, no pun intended, into her member representational allowance. Apparently she gets $2 million a year to shell out $3,700 to Juan D. Gonzalez and another $850 to Bombazo Dance Company for what is being called training. Now, they say that this is not exactly kosher, shall we say, because you really can't have dance trainers as something that your taxpayers are funding. So she's responding to this complaint, and she's like, oh, no, there's nothing there. She sent out this tweet, 100% wrong. None of this is taxpayer money. This is actually an FEC filing. Be loud and wrong about something else. Try again next time. And they're like, okay, honey, we gotcha, because now apparently you do have election expenses, and you're actually charging them to taxpayers, which makes this, you understand, guys, even worse. Taking a look here at this statement of disbursements, this would be coming from her members' representation fund, of which she apparently spent $1.8 million, just $200,000 short of the $2 million she's being allowed. And you can see that the Bombazo Dance Company and the Juan D. Gonzalez training, that's all on there. And she's trying to say, no, this is an FEC thing, which they're then saying, well, gosh, that makes it even worse, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So is this just an accounting error, or is she actually really misusing funds? In their view, Americans for Public Trust is saying she misused the funds. She's using your taxpayer dollars for something that actually should be an election expense. And so it's coming at rather a bad time, I should say, for the Republican, the representative, we wish, no, we don't wish, the representative from New York, coming at a bad time because, you see, she's in the midst of being possibly charged for impeding government. This could actually be a criminal case against her, and it's something that the DOJ is actually looking into. They're possibly preparing a case against one Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ilhan Omar would be in that group as well. We know already that Pam Bondi has come out against Letitia James, the AG of New York, has come out as well against Kathy Hochul and the head of the DMV in New York. And now she's looking at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because AOC is having webinars and seminars on how you need to avoid ICE. She says she's just doing this for her constituents and that it's all fine because these are her constituents. Now, apparently she doesn't seem to understand that the people who actually voted for her, the people who actually are here legally in this country voting, those are her constituents. But no, she's expanding the pool, shall we say. So already AOC is already worked up saying, oh my gosh, am I going to be targeted for this? Maybe she's trying to make something more of it, like trying to get ahead of the news cycle in a way so that she can play the victim. But she has sent a letter over to Pam Bondi wanting to know whether or not she is being investigated for this. And I can assure her that she is. Okay, let's just cut to the chase, right? She is, and we know that if they can prove this one out, they absolutely, positively will. So AOC now in new trouble. Again, this new lawsuit with this Americans for Public Trust saying, what the heck are you doing? Like, why are you taking dance classes and funding your dance classes and your partying effectively on the American taxpayer? And she's trying to say, no, actually, this isn't the American taxpayer. This is an election expense. So then they're coming back at her and they're saying, okay, this is even worse than we thought because it's an election expense. And yet it's being put, look at the documentation, again, on this member's representational allowance. So each member has a certain amount of money that they can spend on various things that they need for their office. She gets $2 million and she's out there using some of this money for these dance classes. So AOC may have actually just put herself into a worse situation by coming out and saying all this. And again, it comes as we see Pam Bondi basically saying, look, you're in violation of the law. We saw Pam Bondi say this just recently, right? Against Letitia, against Kathy Hochul, and saying this is a new DOJ and that, we're not going to stand for this kind of stuff anymore. And so I think when it's all said and done, AOC is going to find herself in a very challenging spot. Yes, there is a bit of a spotlight on her, but she ought to be able to deal with it. I mean, I think Donald Trump certainly had a spotlight onto him for however long, 4 years, well, really 8 years, and he still has it. And, it was courtesy of one, the soundbite, I got to play it, one Letitia James.
He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Over the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
Okay, so I only play that. And Unc Andy, thank you for your generosity. Much appreciated. Oh, you knew she was a shady lady, right? Who knows? I mean, I think it certainly sounds sketchy, though. And she's being accused of something pretty darn serious. And I would just say, listen, you got to live a pretty clean life. If you're the representative AOC from New York, I'd recommend that Jasmine Crockett do the same, especially with the spotlight now on her. In fact, in some ways, they're kind of transferring all their love for AOC onto one Jasmine Crockett, who's being viewed, believe it or not, as the future of the party. But I would just say, look, AOC, you can go and try and explain this one away, but I think you've effectively been caught on tape saying exactly what is incriminating. The fact that you're out there trying to defend people that you believe are your constituents who really aren't. I mean, we can have that debate all day long, but the federal government does have control over who is in this country. They have control over the borders. And so you trying to explain it away on one NPR is not going to work.
You had a recent dispute, if that's the right word, with Tom Homan, the president's Homeland Security czar, so-called. You held an online forum, a Know Your Rights forum, that he didn't like. What were you doing? What was your goal as you saw it?
My job is to educate and act as a liaison of critical information to my constituents. And I was informing all of my constituents of their constitutional protections, and in particular, their constitutional protections against illegal search and seizure in the United States.
Takes him a minute.
Holman was upset, I suppose, because he felt that you were giving advice to people who were here illegally. Mm-hmm. Were you?
I was giving advice to all of my constituents. Yeah.
He said he was going to report you, or even that he did reach out to the Department of Justice. Have you heard from the Department of Justice?
I have not, and I intend on reaching out to the Department of Justice to inquire.
Really? What would your question be for the Department of Justice?
Well, there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open an inquiry, and are you going to do it?
That would be Tom Homan.
What would you learn? What do you hope to learn from that exchange?
I think it's important to know where this administration stands and if they intend on using political intimidation to silence their critics.
Well, I think she's pretty nervous now. I think that, when you add all this up, one, she could be in a lot of trouble, serious ethical trouble, because of some of the accounting or lack of accounting that's being done on her campaign or within her office. You combine that with her complete flagrant disregard for the actual law, where she's more concerned about the quote-unquote constituents that are not here in the country legally. It all adds up to problems for one AOC. And I think that these problems are not going to be going away for her anytime soon. I'm, again, looking at some of your comments. Hello, good to have you guys all here. And let me see, Unc Andy, who had a funny comment just saying, that she's always been sort of a bit on the shady side. I'm laughing about that. I don't know. I think that the woman is, when we say shady, I do think that there's a hunger there from some of these political representatives that suggests that they're willing to say and do anything in order to get themselves elected. Don't forget what she was doing with Tom Bowman, who, by the way, didn't get elected. Some people have joked that, oh, all those dance lessons must have been so she could go run around stage. Remember when she was doing all that crazy dancing on stage with that guy who was the alarm puller? Remember how he pulled the fire alarm because he didn't want to have a vote on the budget? I mean, it's like we're in 5th grade or something. And he never went to jail for that one. He absolutely should have, in my estimation. Absolutely, positively should have. But I think that, the charm is wearing off because people are getting kind of sick of all that she is about. And I think even the Democrat Party has realized they can't deliver Hispanics now. And certainly AOC is not doing them any good at all. Quick shout out from one of our great sponsors here on the show. I was looking at gold today. It's up. Hey, the market all turned around, didn't it? We have to talk about that, all on that CPI number. Turns out that Trump's policies are kind of working after all. What is CNN going to do? We will discuss. But in the meantime, if you're somebody who is worried about the future, if you're worried about inflation, if you just want to make sure that you have some stability in your portfolio for the next however many years, I do recommend gold as part of a well-diversified portfolio. And our friends over at American Heart for Gold can help you out. Just go to trishlovesgold.com. Up to $15,000 in free silver with qualifying offers. You can text Trish to 65532. Call them at 1-844-495-1115. Wow. So AOC is in the hot seat, and I think she's going to remain there for a while. We'll find out whether or not there's anything really illegal going on.